Welcome to the Fearless Faith Radio Show, which follows me, Mary Grothe, and my path as a Christian executive in corporate America. I share the highs and lows, provide scripture and teaching, and then interview influential guests who are walking the talk. I aim to help fill the discipleship gap for Christians in the workplace by creating powerful and real weekly lessons we can all learn from and implement. Welcome to the Fearless Faith Radio Show. We're officially in week 7, and today we are joined by Mark Mears. I will welcome him to the show shortly. I got to tell you, after connecting with Mark, again, another friend in the C-Suite for Christ community, and I spoke to him, I knew he could impact some hearts today. In fact, the first time that he and I met, we only allotted 30 minutes to our meet and greet, which was an error on both of our sides as we were both a little bit chatty. But Mark just dives into this story. I'm totally captured, listening and hanging on to every word, thinking, wow, there's so many similarities here. And I just cannot wait to bring him on here in a little bit. And when you meet Mark later in the show, he'll tell you that he's the founder and chief growth officer for LEAF, that's an acronym LEAF, Growth Ventures LLC, a consulting firm inspiring individuals, teams, and organizations to find purpose and fulfilling their true growth potential while making a positive, lasting difference in the world, which is like the reason I work. I don't care about doing the job. I care about the difference that it makes. Mark has also just released his new book, which I have here in studio with me today. It's called The Purposeful Growth Revolution. So this is a huge book, and I was intimidated when I first looked at it. And I thought, Mark, what did you do? I thought my book was long. This is intense, but it is such an easy, digestible read. And as an executive, as I was reading through it, everything can be implemented the next day. Like, you do not have to wait. This is one of those guidebooks you can just go back to over and over and over again. So it's no surprise to me, but this is a #1 bestseller, and he's going to talk about it today. And this is definitely a book I recommend that you go and get a copy of. I mean, as an executive leader, this is one of the best. And he pulls from so many known experts in our fields and brings in their wisdom, their quotes, their methodologies. Like, it's just such a beautifully assembled book, a nice guidebook. Okay. So we will welcome him soon. But first, it's time to share a little life update. And I'm pumped to share this life update because this is like the whole new era of my life and where I'm headed. Okay, let me tell you. So a few weeks ago, I completed my first keynote of 2024, and it mirrors my book, Destination Remarkable: Surviving the Dark Side of Success, which is also a #1 bestseller. So I wrote this keynote based on my life story and everything that I lived in my 20s and my coming to Christ story, and then what it looked like after the fact. So here I am. I get booked by our nonprofit that we support here, Cross Purpose, to speak at their change agency retreat. So these change agents are part of the Cross Purpose program. They have gone through the regular programming at Cross Purpose, but then they've gone on the entrepreneur track. These people come from traumatic and difficult upbringings, just like I did. Many of them are still in the thick of it and navigating their way out to a better life, but they're entrepreneurs, just like me and so many of us. And oh my gosh, I stood in front of this room and I just felt like God gave me eyes to see their beautiful souls. And together, over 90 minutes, the Lord spoke through me. And I promise you, hearts were changed. So this keynote, I didn't know what to do when I first got in there because I've never done this keynote before. And of course I knew what to do, right? I just pray, like, God, work through me in this. You booked me here. You put me in front of these people. I'm a steward of you, your love, your word, and I need you to work through me today because I know God put this calling on my life and planted the seed in my heart that this is the direction I was going to go with my keynotes and spreading the good news of the gospel. But this was it. I'm like, okay, God, it's time for you to show up because I'm not really sure. And I didn't really plan very heavily before it, but I knew he would guide me. And boy, did he guide me. Starting from my opening line, I'm looking at these beautiful people in this room and I can just see the hurt and the pain and that darkness. And I see overcomers in the room. I see those still navigating. And I'm thinking, this is who I once was. I'm looking at my brothers and sisters in the room, and I realized that God had given me their hearts and their minds for 90 minutes, and it was my responsibility to work with him and provide a transformation that only he could provide through that time. At one point in the keynote, there was not one set of eyes that just wasn't locked on me. Talk about just the weight and the pressure of serving God's children. Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking to myself, they're locked into this message. They're hanging on to every word. And I'm responsible for them right now. And I'm going to do what God's calling me to do. And I got down onto my knees, which I've never done in front of people, so we're clear. I got down on my knees, and in the middle of this keynote with the Holy Spirit, I just turned my palms up to heaven, and I just started praying through the burdens that these people were carrying. There was not a dry eye in the room. These attendees just crying. I think we went through every box of Kleenex in there. I swear chains were broken that day. Burdens were lifted. Christ showed up and freed some of these souls. It was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had in my life. And it gets better. After the keynote, because when I looked around the room, I'm probably going to spend more time talking about this than I allotted for, but so be it. I really like hugs, and I think the reason I love giving a hug, and I will give a good hug, I give the kind of hug that you're going to feel it, because there's something in a hug about an embrace that I feel like is so heavenly that comes from our Father. If you grew up in a traumatic childhood like I did, with an alcoholic parent, an abusive father, and just so many years of chasing acceptance and trying to find love, I've made some bad decisions. I ended up in jail. You guys know the story. And at that moment, at my lowest lows, all I wanted was for my mom to hug me. All I wanted was her to just show up and forgive, and to just wrap her arms around me and look past the mistake that I had made or the failure that I was in her eyes, and just embrace me and tell me it was going to be okay. And the way that I look at hugs and the way that I view hugs, there are some people that are just going through some stuff right now. And if you could just look at them the way that God sees them and just stop with your agenda for a hot minute, look into their eyes, get into their soul and see that burden and that weight and the troubles and the woes and the worries. Through us, Christ can work. And I just felt that day, I'm the one thing I wanted so badly when I hit the lowest lows of my life is I wanted somebody to just wrap their arms around me and tell me it was going to be okay. And it was through God the Father feeling that for the first time when I became a woman of faith. It was the first time I ever had a hug in my entire life. And I felt so compelled at the end of that keynote to do a call for hugs. Literally said, if anybody needs that hug right now in this moment, you get up here right now. And people started coming up from the audience, and I am wrapping my arms around these strangers and embracing, just the tears and the crying. And I could feel those burdens. I could feel that weight. I could feel these breakthroughs and these heart transformations. I'm I have never experienced this in a keynote before. In all the years of keynoting, talking about sales and marketing and revenue scaling and building holistic revenue engines, and I'm going to build you a high performance sales team. I did never hug anybody in one of those keynotes, but this was life changing. And afterwards, I'm signing their book. So everybody got a copy of the book, and we didn't plan for this, but it was 45 minutes of a book signing. These people are coming up to me and they're just gushing and they're pouring their hearts out. And they're you have no idea how your words impacted me today. I'm it's not me. This is all God. This is the Holy Spirit. This is Christ showing up because we summoned him and asked him to be here with us today. And he's committed and he loves us. And he's responding to us saying yes to him. I then received no fewer than a dozen emails over the following couple of weeks of all these stories. These people are going to church. These people are claiming breakthrough from this. These people are moving past their belief systems and their shame and their guilt. So many people were set free from one 90-minute keynote. And I gotta tell you, if that's what God has in store for me in this chapter of my life, sign me up.
I've been in withdrawal since this keynote. I'm like, where is the next one? What is the next one that I get to do? Because if God can work through me this way, this is the greatest gift that has ever been handed to me, that I get to be the hands and feet of Jesus at this level. So it didn't stop there. This is like one of the best Saturdays, days I think I've ever had in my life. So after that keynote, I had booked at a film studio, a beautiful film studio in Denver, and I wanted to professionally film my new keynote called Scaling Faith. And so I had two keynotes, right? Destination Remarkable, that models my book, and then Scaling Faith. So my I don't know what he is, so I've come up with this title for him. My digital creative media producer, his name is Chris Decker. He flew in from California to help me film and produce this project. I've alluded to this on this show and then also my social media, that I'm carving out a new category for myself as a speaker because of my performing arts background. And I just feel like God has given me specific talents. I'm ready to use them for him and to further the kingdom. So my keynotes are going to be a lot more cinematic. They have videos and music, and they're very theatrical. And I've got ladders in this keynote. I'm simultaneously climbing both of them at one point, very uncomfortably, straddling two ladders. At one point I fall off the ladder. Like it's very dramatic to help get the point across. This whole point of this keynote is you cannot worship two masters. It's the ladder of the world, the ladder of my faith. And it is also like sharing that while I'm talking about my experiences and my crashes and burns and everything. Okay, so I got to film this, and God's grace was with us that day. Everything that could have gone wrong, there was an opportunity for it to go wrong. And I swear God just made a way for this to happen. And we are producing one of the most beautiful pieces of art that I've ever been a part of in my life. And I cannot wait to, and we're so close. Like, I think I find out very soon what our world premiere date is going to be of this. And we are going to drop this unbelievable cinematic production for you. And this is where I'm headed. I'm going to have my regular keynotes, like my Destination Remarkable. And then once per year, I want to fully cinematically produce a more performance art style keynote. And I want to take that on tour. And that's going to be like my big keynote. I'm going for big stages, like the big stages, arenas, stadiums, and I'm going to perform that maybe 5 or 6 times a year. Of course, it'll be available on YouTube and all of my platforms, but that's what I'm working on. So here's how it started. Like, this vision is, and I got pretty emotional. Okay. When I saw the 4-minute concept video. So my digital media genius producer, Chris, created a 4-minute concept video for the project, and he sent it to me. He's like, I just want to gut check and make sure we're headed the right direction. Yeah. I watched this video. I couldn't get through the first 2 minutes. I felt filleted, like cut open, heart open. Chris had a very similar traumatic childhood, some differences, but both of us were raised in an extremely toxic environment and suffered from a lot of trauma and a lot of abuse, which then led to us making extremely poor decisions as young adults and getting into trouble and getting with the wrong crowd and making terrible decisions. And only through the grace of God were we pulled from that sin and darkness, didn't die from it, and weren't in prison. We deserved it. But both of us got pulled out from that, and nothing can be experienced like Christ's redemption from a life of so much sin and darkness. And I've never met anybody that just got it when I told my story. And Chris gets it. He lived it, a version of it. So he creates this 4-minute concept video, and I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my goodness sakes. I'm watching my life flash before my eyes. Nobody artistically has been able to ever capture the pain of that sin and darkness and what I went through and what it feels like to be redeemed in Christ and to become a new creation in him. And oh, guys, it was a 4-minute video. And I was wrecked emotionally. I have never felt more seen. And it was tremendous experience for me. So we're taking that 4-minute, we're going to build like a 10-minute trailer, like a preview trailer, kind of like a demo video of the full 40-minute keynote. All of this is going to be released soon. I cannot wait for you to share it with the world. I love y'all. You are the best audience ever. I get the most affirming, sweet, and kind messages from you. It's all God. To God be the glory for all of this. Praise him. I cannot believe that this is turning into my life. I am seriously the luckiest person in the world. And with that, I'm going to lead us into our first break. We will be back shortly.
Attention Christian business owners and entrepreneurs. Are you aiming to grow your business and magnify your impact? Innovation is key. It's not just about marketing and sales. It's about evolving and expanding in ways that matter. We at Strategic Growth Engine are committed to your growth through innovation. We're offering free access to our exclusive strategic innovation resources crafted for Christian entrepreneurs like you. Text innovation to 21000 for insights and tools that will help you innovate and grow your business and your impact. Your business is more than a commercial entity. It's a platform for positive change. By innovating, you don't just grow financially, you grow in your ability to serve and inspire. Don't miss this chance to combine faith, innovation, and growth. Text innovation to 21000 now. That's INNOVATION to 21000. And start your journey of transformative growth today.
At Cross Purpose, we are a movement dedicated to abolishing relational, economic, and spiritual poverty through career and community development. We believe in the power of community and the impact of giving. Give the gift of generational change. Join us in supporting motivated individuals on their journey towards a bright and new future. And these careers are just the beginning. Your generous gift helps us provide essential resources and opportunities to individuals who are determined to break the cycle of poverty. With your support, we can make a lasting impact on their lives, and your gift will support the incredible leaders that we serve, individuals who are not just changing their own lives, but transforming their communities. Together, we can help our neighbors escape poverty, enter meaningful careers, and create lasting change in their lives. Whether you're looking to volunteer your time or make a financial contribution, visit crosspurpose.org to learn how you can get involved.
Welcome back to the Fearless Faith Radio Show. I'm your host, Mary Grothe, and today we have Mark Mears as our guest, and he'll be joining us in just a few minutes. When I first met Mark, I alluded to this earlier, but I was really impressed with his background. We're talking like winning some corporate background. He has been all the big name companies, scaled his career as a corporate marketing executive. This guy has story after story after story. But then I got a little sad when I was listening to his story. I was listening about hearing about these sacrifices that he had to make in order to achieve all that success. It really resurfaced inside of me, the sacrifices I made to have all of that earthly success. And then hearing about the repercussions he faced and the cost that he paid. And I asked myself, like, what's the worst part of this? You know, like, there's so much success in his story, but there was heartbreak. And I had to ask myself, like, what's really convicting me here? And I realized it's the reality of how many Christian corporate executives have faced this. Like, and I specifically say Christian corporate executives because this is the battle. We love the Lord, but we love our careers. Like, why did God give us such brilliant marketplace talents if we're not supposed to use them? But the world has taken work and turned it upside down and turned it into this lustful, idealistic worshiping of money, title, recognition, and sacrificing everything to go work for a company and give your life to them and then lose your marriage and miss out on your kids and have, it's just not worth it, right? Like, that's what we've created in corporate America. And it's so upside down and it's so backward because work is good and God created work and work is noble and supporting your family is super noble. Like, all of this stuff is great, but along the way, it gets hard. And some of us, with the best intentions, it becomes hard. And we make decisions that maybe aren't the best in the moment. The Bible contains various scripture that caution against prioritizing worldly pursuits over family responsibilities. And one of those scriptures is found in 1 Timothy 6, 9 through 10. And it states, "But those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." Additionally, Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve two masters. Either You will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. These verses caution against the pursuit of wealth and worldly success at the expense of one's spiritual well-being and relationships, including those with family. And they emphasize the importance of prioritizing values that align with faith integrity over material gain. The Bible is clear. I think we know that. God's truth is so good. There's so much wisdom, especially just in Proverbs. If you're looking for the way, like, just read Proverbs. Like, oh, the wisdom is unbelievable. And the Bible is so clear. Yet many of us, and I fall victim to this as well, have grappled with the journey of loving the Lord and loving our careers. Knowing our marketplace talents do bless the people we work with. Like, it's a tough question. And work is not bad. Work is noble. Mark's career was not bad. And his career was noble in providing for his family and blessing those he worked with his talents. You're going to read this in Mark's book. I mean, there's so much wisdom in this book. So you know that career, that was not wasted. God is using all of those lessons and everything that he sacrificed. It is blessing the next generation of leaders in this book, but also in his work. And I'm done talking about Mark. Let's talk with Mark. Let's hear his take on this. Mark, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you please introduce yourself to our listeners? And in that introduction, can you tell us the backstory of your incredible career?
Yeah, Mary, I'm sorry. I could just sit here and listen to you all day. Your powerful story. And I just love that comment you made in your keynote about if anyone needs a hug, come up here, because I'm a big hugger myself. And I can feel the warmth of your hug and embrace through the phone as we're not in the same room together. And I just want to honor you and thank you for your powerful story. And I want to appreciate you for having me on today with your listeners. I have had a wonderful career, and it's still going. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I went to the University of Kansas undergrad, and then went to Northwestern University in Chicago for my master's degree in what is known as integrated marketing communication. And so I'm a big believer in communication in many forms and piecing it together to reach a target audience with the appropriate message at the appropriate time to help create a mutual beneficial value exchange. And that's what I believe, business is all about, the value exchange. And I've been blessed to serve at the feet of some of the true masters in marketing and business development and leadership at Pizza Hut when it was owned by PepsiCo, JCPenney, McDonald's on the agency side with Leo Burnett, Frito-Lay on the agency side with DDB, Universal Studios Hollywood, where I was head of sales and marketing, to the first ever chief marketing officer for the Cheesecake Factory, and then president of Mimi's Cafe, and also a stint as CMO at Noodles & Company and a few other places along my journey. But what really is the thread that's woven through all of that, retail, hospitality, restaurants, and entertainment, is this idea of service. Mm-hmm. And so I think about in the Bible, Mark 10:45 says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many." And so I'm thinking, if my role model, Jesus Christ, the best leader in history, came to serve and not be served as God walking among us, what does that mean for me? And what does that mean for my leadership style? And so we've heard the term servant leader for a long time, and I believe it's the best kind of leader. And that's who I've tried to become. And I've had, again, some wonderful mentors who I learned the value of servant leadership and how to lead teams to where you go from a manager to a leader, and what I call now a legacy builder. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
Okay.
But the common denominator is service and humility wrapped around love. And we're going to talk about love in a minute as well. But it's just amazing to be able to now use the blessings and the lessons of my career to what I call pay it backward. And that means when I go to, people say, well, isn't it pay it forward, Mark? I'm like, well, no, listen. When I go to Starbucks, I will pay for the car behind me when I go to the drive-thru. And when I get up to the window, I will tell the barista or the person that took my order, hey, I'd like to pay for the car behind me. And could you just tell them, God bless you, your debt has been paid. And then I'll drive away and I'll say a silent prayer for the people or person in the car behind me. I don't know them. They don't know me. I don't know what kind of day they're having or what they're going through in their life, but I'm just saying a silent prayer that the Holy Spirit be with them. And in that moment, I got to believe that not only did they feel blessed by getting a cup of coffee or sandwich or two, but they also received that blessing. And they're going to pay it backward. Oftentimes, they pay for the car behind them, and the car behind them, I'm told. And also, the person in the window is feeling blessed that they were part of that interaction and not just serving coffee and taking money. And so this whole idea of pay it backward is really now where I'm at in my life. How can I mentor, or what would I tell a young Mark Mears years ago if I knew then what I now know? And so my whole idea is to put the human back in human resources. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a few moments.
Okay, so I work in HR. That's my day job, payroll and HR. And it means so much to me when people say things like that, the human back in human resources, because I get to work with HR leaders all the time. Like, these are these are the people I grew up with professionally. I started serving them when I was 22 years old and have served them in one way or another in my professional career for 18 years. And there's something so undervalued about a great HR leader. We have one in the company I work for right now, P&I, our CHRO. This guy, man, he walks the talk. He has supported me, and I'm stubborn, Mark. Like, I'm not super easy to work with. I'm stubborn. I'm type A. I'm like former CEO, converted to a CRO. So I'm used to having the vision and then telling myself it's a good vision and not having other people comment on it, implementing it. I'm used to failing in private. Like, if it didn't work, it's like, okay, who cares? Pivot. But now, like, a lot of that got exposed being on a 7 executive team. And this CHRO, like, this guy is so passionate about what it means to put the human back in human resources. He's transforming our company from the inside out. He also leads our HR services that we do for our clients. And to see somebody walk the talk like that, embody it, I'm like, this is one of the reasons I work for that company. It's just like, you can't put Mary Grothe just anywhere, because I will not do a job that'll last about one day. I need to be somewhere where there's impact, where there's purpose, where there's intention. And I love this pay it backwards. So the fact that you're commenting on this, you're using every tiny little detail and facet of learnings and growth in your career, giving back into our leaders now. I cannot wait to dive into this. But first, we do need to go on a short break. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Are you ready to step into a world of imagination, inspiration, and pure delight? Then look no further than Life at Home Gifts and Home Decor, nestled at 109 4th Street, Castle Rock, Colorado, affectionately known as the White Barn in the Alley. Immerse yourself in a hidden gem, a haven of shop therapy waiting to transport you into a world of unique and sentimental gifts. Discover the true essence of expression through art and beautiful home decor. Come on down to Life at Home Gifts and Home Decor, the White Barn in the Alley. Let us be your guide to a world of beauty, inspiration, and heartfelt connections, because life is best lived at home. Can't make it to the White Barn in person? No worries. Visit www.lifeatyourhome.com for an immersive online shopping experience where our treasures are just a click away.
Attention business leaders, are you tired of one-size-fits-all solutions for your payroll and HR needs? Look no further than P&I HCM, the trusted name in workforce management for over 25 years. We're not just a payroll vendor, we're your human capital partner in success. P&I HCM is a 25-year-old privately held national payroll and HR company with a 98% new client implementation satisfaction rating. We're industry agnostic, meaning we can handle the unique payroll and HR requirements of nearly any company, whether you have one employee or a thriving team of 10,000. At P&I HCM, we only answer to one group, our customers. We do what's right all the time. No outside influences, no compromises. Your satisfaction is our priority. If your team is considering evaluating your process or vendor for payroll or human resources, we want to hear from you. Let P&I HCM show you how we can make your life better. Visit our website at www.pnihcm.com.
Welcome back to the Fearless Faith Radio Show. I'm your host, Mary Grothe, and I just started interviewing our guest, Mark Mears. He's a former top corporate exec turned author and consultant. Mark, will you share the story of when you decided to pursue work differently away from corporate America?
Yeah, well, it goes back just about 10 years, actually. It was February 21st, 2013, and I was the president of a division of a publicly traded company, and it was a casual dining restaurant concept that was about $500 million in annual revenue. And I was recruited there from my role as CMO at the Cheesecake Factory to turn the brand around. It was down double-digit negative in sales. It had kind of gotten a little long in the tooth and needed new, fresh brand positioning, new menu, kind of refresh the whole concept. And I built a team, and we were living in Southern California at the time. And I was commuting from Valencia down to Irvine, which is about almost 2.5 hours each way. So I actually couldn't do that every day. It didn't make sense. So I would stay in a hotel down there. I'd go there Sunday night after dinner and put the kids to bed. And I'd drive down there and I'd stay in a hotel right across the street from John Wayne Airport where our office was located. And I'd work a long day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I'd come back Thursday evening after rush hour had somewhat abated and just before road construction started. And then I'd work from home on that Friday and be with my family that weekend, right? That's when I wasn't traveling. We had 145 restaurants, 24 states. Our corporate office was in Ohio, so I was traveling there for pre-board meetings and board meetings and post-board meetings and earnings, calls every quarter. So needless to say, there was a lot of stress and there was a lot of uphill climbing. We were not given the resources that I was promised when I came there, but we did. Our team came together. We turned the brand around from double-digit negative sales to positive. We put a new brand positioning out there that was fresh and contemporary, and we actually created a new concept that I was told that the corporate entity that owned us had plenty of capital, and they wanted to put it behind our brand if we earned the right, and we did. Unfortunately, I was told by the CEO, the board's decided to move in a different direction. Which means put us up for sale. But don't worry, you're going to be leading the sale process and, be taken care of. And I thought, well, okay, but you can't tell anybody. So I had to sign a confidentiality agreement. I couldn't even really talk to my wife about this.
Oh, yikes.
Anyway, the deal closed on a Friday. On Monday morning, called in to the new CEO's office who was in town. And in the conference room, actually, and there in the corner was someone from HR. I'm like, that's interesting. I saw that person during the courting process, but didn't know she was going to be invited to our meeting because we were going to talk about what we were going to be doing to integrate the brands. 8:05, I'm out the door.
Oh, Mark.
He decided to move in a different direction. Second time I'd heard that. And I'm like, what, over the weekend? So I got my first real lesson in corporate America. And this was, again, late February, about 10 years ago. And if you've been to Southern California, you know that's usually about the time the first signs of spring start to emerge. Well, after a fitful night of sleep, I took the dog out the next morning, and we had a fig tree in our backyard that was barren from the 6 or 7 weeks of winter we do get in Southern California. But Mary has got as my witness as the sun was rising and coming up over this wall in our backyard. It shone on the tip of one branch, this tiny little green sprig of a leaf just starting to bud. And I got this epiphany in that moment that a leaf is a symbol of growth and rebirth. And I took the dog inside and went to my office, started banging out the treatment on my computer about leaf as a symbol of growth and rebirth. But it was also, in my mind's eye, an acronym which stands for leadership, engagement, accountability, and fulfillment. Well, I used to believe in the rule of threes. And so my three things to that brand and my team was leadership, engagement, and accountability. That's how we're going to turn the brand around. That's how we're going to get this new concept off the ground. And we're going to be successful. This is going to be the turnaround story for the ages. But what was missing was fulfillment. we were burning the candle at both ends. We were chasing numbers just for the sake of numbers. And then all of us got shown the door. And so we didn't have that sense of satisfaction that we were going to be part of this turnaround. It was taken from us. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, I got this epiphany that I'm going to now create this model. Think of it as a 4-circle Venn diagram with leadership, engagement, and accountability and fulfillment as the circles. Mm. At the epicenter is purposeful growth. Everything revolves around purposeful growth. So I went from believing in the rule of threes as a leadership principle to the higher power of fours. There are 4 seasons, not 3. There are 4 directions, not 3. There are 4 chambers to the human heart, not 3. There are 4 elements to an atom, the source of life, not 3. There are 4 gospels, not 3. I could go on with this foreplay, but you get the idea, right?
Yes.
And so it became a model that I used when I went back to other C-level positions. And then I started kind of writing down my thoughts. And first of all, it was like a cathartic hobby. And then I got to thinking, maybe I could write this as a book. Mm-hmm. I never sought to be a writer. I never sought to write a book, but it was as if the Holy Spirit was chasing me and making me take time on weekends or vacations and just spend some time kind of writing one thing led to another. Then it became an outline that it filled in with all these stories of not only my personal experiences, but observations of those I admire. And to your point, I wanted to curate this book to be something that someone could go back to. It's not something like you said, you just get up on a Saturday morning and finish it by noon. It's a work. Mm-hmm. It's my magnum opus, if you will. And so now I went about 2 years ago now and decided I got to finish this. It's chasing me. I feel like it's been a calling that I've been running from. And I left my last corporate job and I put the book as a priority, got it finished. And I'm happy to report it is a bestseller. And just the other day, I recorded the last segment for the book as an audiobook. So now it'll be available in all forms, paperback, hardcover, Kindle, ebook, and audiobook.
Incredible story. The things that convict me the most when I'm reading newsfeed or articles or stories, I see so many comments about you give your life to corporate America and they're not the ones at your funeral. It's the kids you didn't raise and the wife who divorced you because you weren't there. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard when you think about where we spend the majority of our time and where we pour in our hearts. And then just like that on a Monday morning, within 5 minutes, after all that hard work, after everything you've poured in, it doesn't matter. I know these companies, these big companies too, they're like, people are our number one asset. Are they? Yeah. We've been in a season where we're watching layoffs now just happen over Zoom, happen over email. We have been in a crazy layoff season for a year and a half. And it is by the thousands and thousands and thousands. And it's a lot of these companies who raised and then they overhired, they didn't hit those productivity numbers and they're just laying off by the droves. And you think about there are people like you and me, we care a lot, we're talented, we have these marketplace talents, and you couple that with our heart and that we care and we pour all in, it's hard to keep the pendulum from going too far to one side. And then you hit that burnout, you go back. And I just think about this story. I just imagine I'm putting myself in your shoes that Monday morning, 8 a.m. And it's just like, thanks, but no thanks. It stinks. But then you look at how do you use this? And God is so good. If we're listening and if we're looking, He will show up. And He showed up for you that day on that tree. And He gave you what you needed. He gave you that seed literally for the next chapter of your life. And then to see this book take this many years to come into fruition and to be out now, to be a bestseller, knowing the Audible or the audiobook is coming behind it. I cannot recommend this book enough. This isn't one of those where you're like, okay, I need to sit down and read this. This is a chapter a week. This is a pick it up and get another principle embedded in your life. Give yourself an opportunity to implement, see some fruits from those seeds that you're planting with this new principle that you've embraced. There's also a lot of forgiveness in this book. Forgiveness for ourselves as leaders. I was reading some things in here thinking, well, that makes a lot more sense. Or, you know what, that's a better perspective for me. And it's so helpful to have such a great guidebook. I think that the Holy Spirit was definitely knocking on your door, Mark. Get this thing written. I am so glad that you committed and said yes to getting this book out.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because, I mean, so often we get in our own head. And, I developed this chapter that says, get the FUD out. Mm-hmm. And I realized FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, doubt, and delay. The fear of, is it going to be good enough? What will they think? Uncertainty, am I willing to give up a pretty well-paying career for the uncertainty of something I've never done before? Mm-hmm. But doubt, it's like wet cement in the back of your mind when you hear these words that are doubting whether you're worthy or whether anyone knows you or cares about you.
Yeah.
And that leads to delay. And then you just put it off, because who wants to deal with that? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt that come before delay. And then I realized that faith can overcome fear.
Of course.
Hope can overcome uncertainty. Belief can overcome doubt. And action, indeed purposeful action, can overcome the paralysis of delay. And I would not have been able to write that chapter if I wouldn't have gone through what I went through. Mm-hmm. God's timing is much better than my timing. I, too, am type A+, serial achiever, still recovering perfectionist, and I've learned patience. And I go back to my whole concept about the LEAF as a symbol of growth and rebirth, but also an acronym. Well, leadership is the seed and roots that leads to alignment. Engagement represents the trunk branches and the system of nourishment, which leads to this concept of empowerment. And then accountability represents the leaf and the fruit. That's the purpose that leads to achievement. And then finally, fulfillment represents the ecosystem, the sun, the soil, the rain that provides that nurturing environment for that whatever person, fig tree in my backyard, to grow up into its full potential. And then what's cool, Mary, is those who bear the most fruit have the opportunity, and I'll say responsibility, to scatter their seeds to others along their growth journey.
I once had a pastor say he gives the seeds to the sower. And that stuck with me, because the sower is a big title. That's a big responsibility, because it's not just scattering seeds. I mean, there's a big responsibility as a sower. If you're expecting to reap a harvest, you have to have the right seeds at the right time, in the right soil, with the right nurture, with the right patience, in order to yield that bountiful, beautiful harvest. Because you think good seeds and bad seeds, all seeds multiply. What seeds are you putting into the ground? And it's a huge responsibility. And I think that's so beautiful how you said that. I hate to pause us. We do have to lead into one last break, but we will be back in just a few.
Have you ever felt the need to carry a message of purpose into your everyday life? Well, we've got some exciting news for you. Introducing Do Remarkable Work, a Christian clothing company founded by the dynamic husband and wife team, David and Mary Grothe. Inspired by Colossians 3:23, they believe that whatever you do, you should do it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord. David and Mary's journey began with a conviction to make their work a reflection of their faith. They believe that whatever your passion is, your work matters. Your efforts can further the kingdom and can be the love and light of Christ through your work. Do Remarkable Work's signature clothing and accessories will empower you to share the good news of the gospel with encouraging phrases and trendy designs. Visit DoRemarkableWork.com to place your first order now. Make a statement with your wardrobe and proclaim the message that your work matters to God and the kingdom. Be part of Do Remarkable Work's mission to inspire and uplift others through the power of faith and fashion. Visit DoRemarkableWork.com now and get ready to wear your faith.
You are ready to transform your workplace and look no further than P&I HCM. your partner in building and maintaining the experiences your employees deserve. At P&I HCM, they take pride in offering cutting-edge payroll and HR solutions designed to streamline your people operations from recruitment to retirement. P&I HCM is your partner in creating a remarkable employee experience that boosts engagement, productivity, and your bottom line. In a world where only 33% of the workforce is engaged, choosing the right human capital management technology is crucial. P&I HCM isn't just a solution, we're your strategic ally. With P&I HCM, you're not just adopting technology, you're embracing a culture of belonging, appreciation, and longevity. Because when your workforce thrives, so does your organization. If you are ready to save time and elevate your employee experience, visit www.pnihcm.com now and let us show you why we're the driving force behind successful workplaces.
Welcome back to the Fearless Faith Radio Show. I'm your host, Mary Grothe, and we are deep in our interview with Mark Mears. And I'm so grateful, as I knew that I would be, for everything, Mark, that you've shared with us so far. And to lead us into our last segment, may I please ask you what advice you have for our audience on how to have fearless faith?
That's great, Mary. I talked before the last break about this notion of FUD, and so I'll come back to that. But I wanted to get, the way you can get the FUD out and the way we can step out in this new world of work is to lead differently. And I told you earlier I was going to mention this concept of love, and not the kind of love that's going to get you a quick call from HR and escort out of the building, but it's a model that stands for listen, observe, value, and empower. And so on a mission to put the human back in human resources, especially in this day and age of robotics and AI and machine learning. And, the one thing I know, Mary, is until the robots or zombies come take us away, we're all human beings and we all have the capacity to love. We came from love, to love, and to be love. And I think that if we think about how we can be better listeners as leaders to our team members, observe them and coach and encourage them in real time, value the whole person, and appreciate who they are, not just as a worker or an employee, but as a team member who plays a valuable role in the success of the team, but also to empower them. And empower is a really big word, and I'll give you one quick story, and that is when I learned to ride a bike, I think we all learned the same way. We probably started with a trike, and maybe we got a bike that had training wheels, and they got taken off on that fateful day when it was time to learn to ride on your own. And mom or dad, I remember, pushed me down the sidewalk, and they ran with me for a while, and then they let go. And I wobbled and fell a few times, but I got back up. And then I was able to ride on my own. And I remember that sense of freedom through the empowerment of being able to do something on my own. My whole world opened up. The neighborhood got bigger. And so I circled back to this idea of fearless faith. I had faith in my parents that they were going to be with me either way. I had faith that I was going to be able to figure out how to ride this bike, because I saw my older brother and sister do it, so I knew I could do it. But it's getting over that fear, the uncertainty, and that doubt to finally take action on that one Saturday morning to finally ride for myself. And so I'd say to your audience, how to have fearless faith: get over your fear with faith, get over your uncertainty with hope, get over your doubt with belief, and get over your delay by taking action and being purposeful action.
It's so beautiful. Please give us the LOVE acronym one more time as well.
Listen to what your team members are saying and what they're not saying. Everybody's going through something, right? Listening is even tougher now through remote or hybrid environments, but there is opportunities to do so, connect on a deeper level. Observe them and coach and encourage them in real time. Value the whole person and appreciate them, and then empower them to be their very best.
It's so good. You have an acronym and a model for everything.
And notice they're all in 4s.
And they're all in 4s. I love it. I love who God has created you to be and your answer to that call and the work that you're doing. Leaders need it. It is so lonely at the top. It is so lonely. I was listening to a podcast on the way to the studio today, and 2 of my friends, John Gallagher and Matt Gerlach, John was interviewing Matt on the podcast. And oh gosh, both are entrepreneurs and coaches, and these 2 guys are great. But I'm listening to Matt, and he said one of the most brilliant things that I had heard. It gave me so much forgiveness in my own heart for myself, and some freedom, and some things that I had been struggling with. And I want to ask your opinion on it because of how many leaders you've worked with, Mark. So Matt's comment was his biggest issue with transitioning from an individual contributor, like top producer working for someone else, into being an entrepreneur was as follows. As a high achiever, top producer, he always had someone looking out for his best interests, meaning if there was a disgruntled client or a potential issue with the company and executive, or a legal issue or a barrier in his way, or whatever it was, he always had the person that at the end of the day, just like how you had faith and trusted your parents, like the bike was going to happen, always removed the obstacle, always took the bullet for him, like always was able to respond and take the weight off of that issue, just take it away from him. But as an entrepreneur, he was now that person, and he had never had to play that role in his entire career. So as an entrepreneur, he's fully exposed. He doesn't have a bulletproof vest anymore. And it's like taking a hit from the left, taking a hit from the right, like getting your legs just right out from underneath you. That is the exact same thing I experienced as a top producer. I was very well taken care of in my professional career. I always had a manager or someone that valued what I did so much that they were willing to go into the fire for me and take away the barrier. And as an entrepreneur, when I realized I was now that person, I realized how I was not cut out for that job. And it was the death of me as an entrepreneur, and so difficult for me. Now, I've also noticed, even being a senior executive as I am right now, there's fewer and fewer people. There's still so much of that rides on me. And now I'm finding like, wait, I now get to be that for everyone on my team. Like, it's time for me to mature as a leader, step into this now that I can acknowledge what it is and remove these barriers, take the bullets from my team, like allow them to flourish in their state. And like, I'm that person now. It was such an awakening realization for me. I would love for you to comment on that, what you've seen on it, or how you'd coach someone through that.
Yeah, Mary, that's a wonderful story, and very analogous to my career, only just the opposite in some ways, but the same result. When I was in corporate America and was in leadership positions, I was the guy that would have the backs of my team. I was the one that says, if this idea works, it's your idea. If it doesn't work, I'll take the heat. And now that I am a solopreneur, I don't have anyone who can do that for me.
Nope.
And I have 3 team members, me, myself, and I. And sometimes we don't get along. So I don't have the same experience from that perspective, but I have the same result, which is, man, this is hard. Mm-hmm. I'm used to knowing what I'm doing. I'm used to being pretty good at what I'm doing, and now I feel like I'm learning from scratch. It's like, going from crawling to walking and running, and I'm probably still in the crawl phase. Yeah. But what I've found to be helpful for me is community. I realize that I'm not alone, and there are other people that are going through the same thing, that have a burning desire, or they feel a call to give of themselves in a different way, and they step out on faith. They have a deep sense of hope. They have a belief in what they're doing and a belief in the person who sent them, and they take action. And I find you just keep moving forward. So faith overcoming fear, hope overcoming uncertainty, belief overcoming doubt, and action overcoming the paralysis of delay. And that to me is consoling, because I believe I was given this epiphany and given this call. And so I know God's not going to let me fail. I know He's not going to let me stay by myself. He's going to put people in my path. And I pray that every day when I wake up, Mary, is, please, God, put someone in my path today I can bless, and maybe someone who can bless me. And it's amazing how I find people such as you that showed up out of nowhere and reached out to me. And I believe that's a great example of God. And if we're listening and if we're open-hearted, we can have community with people who can help us along our journey so we can accomplish the goal that was put in front of us.
It's so beautiful, and I love your perspective on it. I think I have a lot to learn from you because I sit in this seat now where I get to be that person for my team. And it's the faith over fear, 100%. It's the way to abolish your fear is through faith. And it's time for us to wrap up. Mark, before we go, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, first, I would invite your listeners to go to my website at markamears.com to see what I'm all about. And there you'll find a Purposeful Growth self-assessment. Mm-hmm. And I would love it. It takes about 5 or 6 minutes for people to fill out to kind of get a benchmark of where they are in their purposeful growth journey, and also maybe how aligned or not aligned they are with their workplace. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from others because I love to learn. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me, and then also subscribe to my LinkedIn monthly newsletter, which will not surprise you. It's called Seeds for Growth, number 4.
I love it so much. Everybody go connect with Mark. Go take your self-assessment. I love me a good little self-survey. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today on the Fearless Faith Radio Show.
My pleasure, Mary. It was just such a pleasure. I can't even tell you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, everyone, that's it for today. I want to thank you again for being such a loyal listener base and sending in your sweet messages. I also appreciate that you continue to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. That's how this grows. That's how we get to continue to spread the good news of the gospel and fill this discipleship gap for workers in corporate America who love the Lord. So please go rate and review us. And also remember to swag up. Go to doremarkablework.com. Get your favorite swag. You can see my shirt today, Do Remarkable Work. Got the sweatshirt on. And go grab a copy of my book, Destination Remarkable, Surviving the Dark Side of Success. See you next week. That's it for today's episode of Fearless Faith. Be sure to connect with me, Mary Grothe, Grothe, on all social platforms, and to learn more about my keynote speaking and other ways to work with me at marygrothe.com.